Girl just said you cannot budget your way out of a bad economy. And you absolutely cannot. I be trying to budget with food and I always go over. And sometimes I get so frustrated with myself because I'm trying to have a better relationship with my money. But at times I have to tell myself some things are just not realistic. And you are absolutely going to go over your budget with the way these prices are set up. You go in the store thinking you're going to spend a certain amount, but when you get in there and see these prices, baby, you're going to have to up that budget. Same thing with my kids' school clothes and their supplies. I went in trying to spend a certain amount, and when I came home and I spent that amount and look what I had, I was like, no, I got to go back and get my baby some more because this is not realistic at all.
Is budgeting in a bad economy doable? How do you guys feel about that? Let me know down below in the comments. Before I get into this video, if you guys don't mind, please like this video. It really helps push my videos out into the algorithm and helps more people see videos like this. I really want to know if you guys feel that it is truly impossible to budget in this economy. And I know everybody's income is different just because everybody makes a different amount of money and has different incomes coming into the home. I know that can play into the budgeting factor as well.
Every time this comes up, I want to talk about it because I find this so interesting how so many people don't understand that you can't budget yourself out of poverty. Being poor is more expensive than being wealthy, not just because of the by volume money you have to spend, the percentage of your income that you have to spend, but the things you buy are actually more expensive per product. And I was talking to a girlfriend I had some years ago, and she brought up the question. She's like, I just wish more people had financial education and they could, do better to learn how to budget themselves a little better. And maybe that would help. And I had to explain to her, I was like, when I made $15 an hour, my ex-wife, who I was married to at the time, this is going back 15, 16 years ago, she made $8 an hour working at the Meijer store in Michigan. And so with that money, we were down to sub $1 left over, paying all of our bills. We had no debt, but that is how tight we were budgeting. I would go to the store and we would go to buy toilet paper, and a 4-pack of toilet paper was almost $4. So let's just go ahead and pretend $1 per roll. Now, if I had been able to spend $20 on toilet paper, I could have gotten a 48-pack. I could have gotten that toilet paper that I still would have used, but had I been able to buy it in a larger quantity, I would have been able to get it for 40 cents a piece. So much of the things that poor people engage in are because they literally cannot afford the more expensive option, having to go to the laundromat to wash our clothes. It would cost about $80 a month to go to the laundromat to wash clothes for 2 adults and a baby. Why didn't you just buy a washer and dryer? When you're budgeting down to the penny, you can't afford to just go spend $200 on a used washer and dryer. Now, when I got a raise, I went from $15 an hour to $25 an hour. My paychecks were substantially bigger. And the first thing I did was go buy a washer and dryer. Now, that washer and dryer paid for itself in 2 months. We're paying $80 a month. It essentially paid for itself in 2 months. Now, every single month moving forward, after those first 2 months, I have access to an additional $80 in my bank account that I didn't have before. You throw the toilet paper on there, over that, just those 2 little things, it's $84 a month that I now have access to that I didn't have access to before because I had the financial power to make the smarter financial decision. When you are poor, you do not have access to this power. And that's just 2 little baby examples.
This guy actually brought up a great point. And if you really think about it, if you really just sit back and think about different ways and situations in which this applies, say, you're renting a place and they decide to, go up in rent $200 or $300. Well, you might have only got a 30 or 60 cents raise. So that's not going to do you any good. Just say your lights are cut off for non-payment. Well, guess what? Not only do you have to pay, what that light bill was, but then you're stuck paying a reconnect fee. Even when you have a vehicle, say you have a small, fix in your car that needs to be repaired, but it's okay, you don't have the money and you put that off and that turns into a bigger problem and causes a bigger issue. So your once, $200 or $300 car issue was now a $2,000 or $3,000 car issue. But it's you didn't have that $200 or $300 to pay. So now you have a bigger expense and a bigger problem. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, it definitely changes the way you think about certain things.
I know I'm not the only adult that sits in their car wondering how they're making the most money they've ever made in their entire life, and it still doesn't seem to be enough. My rent is $2,000 a month and I live in a townhouse. My car note is $535 a month, and that's on the low end compared to what I see a lot of people pay. My car insurance is $370 between two vehicles. And every time I turn around, that's going up, and they can't even tell you why, other than that the rates have increased. Why? And then you're in an office trying to convince you that your grocery bill has decreased, but I just went and spent $100 on chips, bread, bananas, apples, some muffins, and hamburger meat. Oh, don't forget the $10 eggs. My HOA just decided to charge me $100 because I left my garbage can sitting out in front of my house for a couple of days because I needed to let it dry after dumping it with bleach because there were maggots in there. You rent from these companies and they penny pinch you on everything that they can. We are being bullied into poverty by these corporations and billionaires. I don't understand how the families that are living off $15 an hour, how are you doing it? How do you pay your rent?
I think a lot of people are, really stressed out and financially strapped right now. Again, it's not going to look the same if you were a higher earner compared to low income. The economy is affecting a lot of people just in different ways. So we also have to consider that. One person may be impacted a little bit differently. Somebody might be harder impact depending on, I think it depends on a lot of circumstances. I also feel like the more money someone makes, sometimes depending if you're not good with the budget or just don't have a different mindset, you think because you're making more, that means go out and buy more things and buy more expensive stuff and take on more debt. And I think that's the worst thing that you can do. Instead of paying down your debt, paying off your debt and still living within your means, that mindset, that logic, I think gets so many people in trouble. So I do think that's a situation where you do have some of those people that are really, really hurting because, they might have had a job loss or, the economy is just not doing what it needs to do right now.
How are we all living right now? In 2025, how are we all getting by? And this is no way political, but in reality, friends, fellow Americans, how are we living? How are you getting by? I don't believe there's a middle class anymore. I believe middle class is now low income, and low income is now just not surviving.
No matter what, this economy is hurting a lot of people. Again, if you're not affected, cool, good for you. Again, don't sit on your high horse because you don't know when it's going to affect you. But we are now living in a country where hamburger meat, ground beef, whatever you want to call it, I call it hamburger meat, we are paying minimum wage for that, if not higher. It might be a tad bit lower depending on where you are, depending on your state and things like that. But ground beef, the price of that has gone up, and I don't see it coming down anytime soon. But the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour in America in 2025. I just happen to live in a state where that is a minimum wage. I think we all just need to brace for impact at this point. I think a lot of people are just going to be affected by everything that's going on. I'm honestly scared and worried for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to be facing homelessness, food insecurity, hunger, and these food banks are getting stretched to the capacity because so many people are utilizing them. Don't forget to like this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, you guys, because it is starting to thunder. I want to go ahead and get back inside. You guys take care, stay safe, and I will see you guys in the next video.